Hi there. I recently was on a trip visiting family and I went to see my brother and he gave me a keyboard. He knows I'm into old tech and so he had a collection of these and he wanted to give me one condition unknown. Now this is an IBM Model M keyboard and it is reputed to be the best keyboard in the world. So let's find out why. Welcome to the basement. So we're going to start off looking at... Hello? Can I help you? I'm here to tell you about today's sponsor, PCB Way. Now, PCB Way is a great place for you to go if you want quality printed circuit boards. Not only do they do printed circuit boards, but you can also get CNC machining, you can get 3D printing, they prototype all your stuff, you can get it pre-assembled. There is a whole bunch of projects in their library that you can just click and they'll send it to you. You can build and enjoy. So get on over to PCB Way. It's the place to go for your PCBs. Kind sponsor of today's video. Okay, well thanks. We'll see you next video. So, back to the keyboard. So, here we have it, the Model M keyboard by IBM. Yes, some people say that this is the best keyboard in the world. I'm not sure why. I'm not a keyboard guy, so I don't really get into the whole keyboard thing. My favorite keyboard is the one that I've plugged into my 2017 iMac, the machine that I do all the editing on for this channel. It's just a standard Apple keyboard. In fact, it's not even the Bluetooth one, it's the one you plug in with a USB cable, because that gives me 2 extra USB ports on the keyboard, which for me is the most handy feature. I don't do a lot of typing, so the key feel and everything, I've never really got into that whole scene. But I get it's a big deal for some people, especially people who are typing all day, coding, whatever. You need a keyboard that feels good and has the right responsiveness. So apparently the Model M is one of those. Now this keyboard has come with some issues. I'm not sure what they are. It does need a bit of a clean, and we're going to test it on something that I can plug it into to see if all the keys work and see if it needs any repair. But won't you listen to the lovely clickiness of it. Now, for some people, that's a feature, and for other people, I guess that would be kind of annoying. But I quite like it. So let's have a look at this machine. I'll find something we can plug it into, and we'll see if it works before we pull it apart. I found my box of adapters and pulled out all of the PS2 adapters I have. Unfortunately, they all go the wrong way. They're all for connecting a USB keyboard into a PS2 machine, so they're useless. This one here is the only one that it will plug into, but that's for converting it to a 5-pin DIN for an older XT or AT machine. So plan B, we're going to have to find a computer that this can plug into. Now you would think that in the basement I would have a computer to plug it into, but most of the stuff I have here are Macs, and this is an IBM standard, and as far as I know, Mac never used a PS2 connection for peripherals. Now I do have some older DOS machines, but they are 5-pin DIN, so I'm going to have a hunt around. I may have a laptop or two that I can plug this into. Okay, we're in luck. I did find, I forgot I had these actually, this little stash of 98 XP era laptops. Do they work? No idea. I guess we'll start with the top one and see. They all have PS2 ports on them, so hopefully we get lucky and we can plug the keyboard in and test it. So we'll start out with the Compaq Presario. Yeah, that's the hard drive click of death, so I don't think we're going to have much joy with this machine. So this is a NEC, what is it, VersaNote VXI. Let's have a look. Probably got a dead battery, being 20 years old, so I doubt that's good. Oh wait, that's amazing. This thing's over 20 years old, and it's been sitting like in my get round to it pile for years, and it's just booting off battery. That's actually kind of amazing. Go NEC. Look at that, it's just booting up. XP all the way. So hit it some power. Right, let's plug the keyboard in, the Model M, and see if the keys work on this. I have just pointed my iPhone at the screen of the computer. That seems to be the easiest way, rather than trying to capture that out to yet another computer. So I've plugged in the keyboard. Let's check all the keys work. Aha, so I think we've found an issue, and that would be the spacebar. So it does appear that it's just the spacebar. That's interesting. So we'll pull it apart and see if we can find out what's wrong with the spacebar. Maybe it's just a dirty connection or something. Don't know. We'll find out. Just while I'm packing away this old NEC machine, if anyone's actually interested in a video of showcasing the machine, let me know in the comments. I'm happy to make a video on these old Windows machines. This is kind of my nostalgic era Windows, XP and earlier. So I quite like exploring the old hardware. So if that's something you're interested in, let me know. Drop a comment below. Right, move on to the keyboard. Okay, I think I may have figured out the problem. If we have a look here on the board, you can see that these are the buckling springs, and I'm not sure if you can see down into the bottom of this little cylinder, but it's kind of connected to a thing down there, which is like the contact, I guess, to tell us we're pushing the key down. That spring's connected to it, but if you look at the spacebar one, it is connected, but it's kind of all loose down in there, like it's not staying. You can sort of see it's twisting around, and it's kind of hard to see, isn't it, with the light. You can see whatever it's connected to is kind of just all flopping around. So I reckon that's the problem. Something's not quite seated correctly inside the switch here. So I'm going to take the keyboard apart and we will sort it out properly. Fingers crossed. Okay, I've run into another hurdle, unfortunately. The bolts on this keyboard, they take a 732s or a 5.5mm socket, which fits nicely on that one I can get to, but these are in a little well and the socket's too fat to get in there. So I've tried both of my sockets that will fit the nut and they both get stuck here. So to the grinder. Whew, okay, I decided it was easier to bring the grinder to me. Let's get sorted. Okay, so we're going to make this little thing even smaller. I'm just going to put it in this extension because that'll save me grinding my fingers while I'm trying to grind this a bit smaller. And of course, safety first, kids. Always put on our safety glasses when we're dealing with high-speed tools. So there we have it. It's a Model M cracker. Just fits in the hole nicely now, and we can reach those bolts and undo them. Okay, I've got it loose, and you can see there's an earth wire here and there's a couple of ribbon cables, so I'll just go ahead and remove those. Earth screw off. Let's lift the keyboard away. So this is the shell, this is the controlling circuitry. Looks all pretty simple, and it also looks removable, which will be handy for when we come to wash this board. You can see it's quite grimy in here, so I'll take it upstairs and we'll give it a scrub in the sink once I pull everything else off. I will say that the cord length on these keyboards is very impressive. It's at least 2 meters long, and then it's also stretchy as well. So yeah, nice one, IBM. Top marks on the cable. Does it make it the best keyboard in the world? Still undecided on that one. Okay, so this plastic piece now is ready for scrubbing. Let's have a look at our keyboard proper. So we need to get underneath this black piece somehow, because that's where I can see the contact thing flapping around in there for the spacebar. So I'm not sure how we're going to do that, given that this is all like melted in here, and there's no way I am going to cut every one of these like melted rivets to get this back plane off. So there has to be another way to do this. So I've been doing some research, and the only way to get to it is to go through the back. So I know I said I didn't want to, but it looks like we are cutting off all of these melted rivets and pulling this keyboard apart. So let's start by pulling all the keycaps off, and then we'll go from there. So there we have it, all of the keycaps. Hopefully I can put them all back in the same position. Now what's quite a neat feature is that the keycap with the letter or symbol on it comes off from sort of the keycap underneath. So there's like an auxiliary keycap which you can then swap out quite easy without pulling the keyboard apart. So that's a good feature of the Model M, one that I haven't seen before. So I do struggle with patience with this kind of job. That's why I was trying to find a way, any way that I can fix it without having to do this, but there doesn't seem to be. Sometimes you just have to do it the hard way. So next step, let's pull these rivets off. Okay, looks like that's it. Got it. Man, you wouldn't want to have to do this like twice, would you? Okay, so we've got some membranes here. There we go. And there we can start to see the mechanism here. It's actually not too complicated. Well, it looks like we have found the problem with the spacebar. Hello, it is snapped. So that's why it was just flapping around in there and not working reliably. I'm going to tip these ones out because we don't want them in the way for cleaning. There's so many small parts in these things. I hope I can get it all back together. Right, so let me get all these pieces upstairs and start giving everything a clean. We'll dry it overnight, and then we'll be able to put it back together in the morning. Okay, so everything's clean. I'm just going to lay it out in front of the fireplace here. All my keycaps. Spread them out. We'll dry it all off and put it back together tomorrow morning once everything's dry. So everything's scrubbed, ready to be put back together. So the other thing I found was this little bag here that my brother gave me this with the keyboard, and thankfully some of the spares include one of these. So you can see they're the same thing. It's a different colour, but I don't think that matters. Now, when we pulled it apart, we had to cut all those plastic rivets off. So what I'm going to do is I picked up a bag of these. I've got 60 little screws with nuts. So they're pretty tiny because you don't want too much sticking out on the metal side because it won't fit in the plastic case, I don't think. I've got the back plate lined up with the little rivets. So I've got my piece of timber here and we'll sit it on that and we can drill into that. Let's flick it to the other side. So now we've got our hole through this black plastic thing. We're going to just use a larger drill to give the hole a bit of a countersink. Make sure it's not on hammer drill. Okay, so you can see it's got a bit of a rebate there now, which means our screw sits nice and flush. And it means we have just enough sticking out the bottom to sit the nut on. Great. So one down, 59 to go. Okay, so that's not quite all 60 because I can't do the rivets right at the base of this keyboard because the other side is this ridge here, so it would be nowhere for the screw head to sit. But hopefully on the molding we can see that there's these little hooks and they kind of hold everything together, sandwiched together. So I'm hoping we don't need those ones along that edge. Okay, so I'll countersink them all and get rid of all the plastic shavings, and then time to put it all back together and see if it works. So before it goes together, we have to put all of our little buckling spring mechanisms in. We'll start with our replacement piece. He'll go in where the spacebar was. And we'll just carry on across the board putting all of these in. Now we carefully have to put all the layers on and make sure that none of these little plungers come out of their tracks. So we still have all of those plastic rivets along that front edge where I couldn't drill, so they help us to locate where everything's supposed to be. So I'll make sure that they're all sticking through, and then the rest of the membranes should sit just right. I'll throw a few bolts in and we'll check none of those plastic bits have slipped out of their guides. Okay, we're looking pretty good. We'll screw off a few more of these bolts. Alright, that was a bit of a mission, but everything is screwed down. As you can see here, all the little nuts on here holding it down. Everything's back together. All the keycaps are in the correct place, I hope. And it's time to test it out, see if we have actually fixed it. So we'll start out with the space bar. And it looks like it is doing everything a space bar is supposed to do. So that's great. The only thing now to test, we haven't broken something else while we've fixed the space bar. So I'll go through and test all the keys. So it looks like everything is working. Now, my thoughts on the IBM Model M keyboard. This thing is built like a tank. You can pick it up, it weighs a ton, you can feel it's made from really quality plastic, thick plastic. It doesn't have any flex. For example, I've got an Apple design keyboard here, and you can just, this thing is just made from cheese, like you can just move it around. And it just feels like garbage compared to this. This feels very solid, almost industrial, which it kind of goes with the IBM theme, I suppose. The other thing I like about it is the clicky keys are really nice. I'm not sure if I would get annoyed with that if I was typing all the time. I don't do a lot of typing, and the kind of typing that I would do, I think I would quite enjoy these clicky keys. So that's a win. They have a nice feel to them as well, if that sort of thing's important to you. Again, I'm not a typist, so I don't worry too much about that, but it is nice. It is a lovely feeling keyboard. Certainly the best feeling keyboard I have ever used. What I don't like about this keyboard is the fact that it is so hard to get into, because you saw that those pieces needed replacing. They broke, they're in the depths of the keyboard, and it's not designed to pull apart and put back together without serious modification, which we had to do. So that's kind of a bit of a bummer that they didn't just design it to be disassembled in the first place and to be able to be repaired. So that's a bit of a negative. Is it the best keyboard in the world? Well, I'll leave that for you to decide. You've been in the basement. Have a great day.